like I posted, you've seen a post on Instagram. It's like, are we headed towards an all out, all in two with all these companies?
Right.
AEW has the stadium and everything, so they can pull it off. So it's like, man, we might be headed there. So I think that again, it goes back to just us as wrestling fans being, I don't want to say accustomed, but we've gotten used to WWE storytelling.
Yeah.
Do the brand split. That this is a totally different style of storytelling. That you can't give up on it. Okay, WWE will push a storyline, and if it doesn't work within 2 weeks, they'll drop it.
Right.
And just like we're accustomed to that. But with AEW, NWA, Impact, there's a method to their madness, and
right.
There's a storytelling aspect. But yeah, I'm like I told my other colleagues in the podcast I've been on, and I'll tell you, like, it's gonna be a fun year next year. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be entertaining. I know Impact is gonna have Genesis the Saturday after the first Dynamite. So I mean, we might have Kenny Omega versus the Impact Heavyweight Champion.
Oh, Rich Swann.
There you go, Rich Swann. So that's where we could possibly get that. And then at the end of January, they're gonna have another pay-per-view as far as Impact. So I mean, you have that. You have AEW. Then you're gonna have the Royal Rumble. So yeah, that's all in January. It's like, man, I think Christmas came like December and January. Like, we're getting leftovers, man. It's like, I'm digging it.
Yeah, for sure. I know Hard to Kill is the next Impact pay-per-view. I really enjoy what they've been doing over there at Impact. And just now, I think that they've let go of a lot of their former stars, and they've really, got behind some of these young talent that's really been exposed. They still have, like, some guys that like Tommy Dreamer, Rhino, obviously some staples that have been there for a while. But then they've also brought in new talent. I really like Sami Callihan, Eddie Edwards. I mean, these guys are great. I mean, Sami Callihan, what that man can do with with a mic, and what he's very talented. What he can do with saliva. If you've seen, have you seen what he does with saliva? He'll spit it out, and then like he'll catch it. He'll like play with it on his hands. In AEW especially, he gets pretty wild with that. So
yeah. But you know what? That's the other thing about the AEW Impact partnership, the possibility of dream matches and stuff like that. And you know what? A lot of people don't give this, the way they've done this, credit. Like, if it was WWE, they would have already had, like, their top champ confront Omega, like, hey, why are you here? This. Typical story. They haven't even done that.
No.
It's just Omega with Don Callis. Okay, I'm just here. Hey, this is my buddy. Boom. Like, I've always said that professional wrestling is always at its best, and it's always been at its best when we always ask, what the hell's going to happen next? Man, I got to tune in. I got to watch. Man, that's when it's at its best, and that's what they're bringing back. I'm still getting goosebumps because I was watching it yesterday, and as soon as Carl Anderson was with Omega, I was like, thank God, the Bullet Club. Yes. I'm going to see Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa on AEW. Yes, thank you. Finally. Because let's face it, everyone who follows me on social media knows that's like my favorite tag team. So I'm like, finally, they're gonna be on there. But yeah, man, Sami Callihan, he's, the good thing about that is he used to be a tag partner with Moxley back in the day. So it's just, man, there's just so much stories and history that we don't know, and it isn't coming from a boardroom of 20 writers. Trying to figure out, hey, let's figure out something for Lars Sullivan. It's like it's just so organic, and you feel, and I think that's what like you said, you mentioned earlier when we first started this. As far as AEW, they're creative and everything. You're starting to see, you could say, the wheat and the weeds separating with them. You're seeing the guys that are top performers that can hang with like Cody and stuff like that. They're getting there. It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun, and I'm happy for Impact. I'm happy for Don Callis and Scott D'Amore because they really did a 180 with that product. Yeah. Like that product again, like you said, a lot of your buddies like, yeah, I'll watch I even thought, I was like, man, WWE's going to eventually buy this. Like, it's like, all right, it's going to be on the network. And somehow they turned it around and, they're backing the spotlight. And what's interesting, I don't know if you know this. Yeah, I think it was when Omega first appeared on Impact. And then, he appeared on Dynamite. And Raw got a 1.74 million viewers. Now, Impact, you probably remember, they got 750,000.
Right.
And, Dynamite got 995,000 views. Mm-hmm. If you put those viewership together, the 750,000 and the 995, that is the same rating that Raw got.
Wow.
So two companies, if you put it together, they're getting Raw ratings.
Right.
They're not getting NXT ratings, and that's the thing. NXT, they only gained like 1,000, viewers. Impact gained 82,000.
Right.
Just by this angle. When I saw that, I was like, holy crap, it's gonna get interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Well, we'll see, man.
Well, I'm excited for it. Like, what's to you is the next match that's announced that you can't wait to watch?
Oh man.
Tonight we have Drew McIntyre, AJ Styles 1-on-1, and then on Dynamite, we'll see what the matches they have in store. I'm assuming it's gonna be Kenny Omega and Moxley again, unless they have someone leapfrog over Moxley to take on Kenny Omega, and they could even do Hangman Kenny Omega match as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I know. The week before the contract signing where Omega, where Moxley beat up Omega and everything, and Moxley got attacked. So that's still questioned.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of speculation is saying it was the Good Brothers.
Right.
I hope so. Man, who could Omega fight? It's hard to. I think we'll probably see after the first episode of the year who his first opponent is going to be. Because I think what's going to happen is he's probably going to get that Impact title first before he fights someone. I think because, if you look at it from a storytelling standpoint, if he's already dropping hints as far as collector, you kind of got to collect something. Like, you can't say, yeah, I'm a collector. Well, you have the same two belts you had 3 weeks ago. Unless you're collecting, new clothes or something, or a stimulus check, you're not collecting anything.
Well, Austin Aries, he was doing that. Remember, he was the Impact champion. He had like 4 or 5 other belts as well.
Yeah, so that's the other thing, man. We haven't had anything like this as far as heavyweight champs in almost 40 years.
Wow.
Kenny Omega he's kind of doing an Ultimo Dragon when Ultimo Dragon in WCW used to come out with like 12 belts. And you're like, how many companies are out there? Like, where the hell are you fight? Like, what? So it's pretty cool, and it adds. I think, some people may not like it because, like, then they should just have one big belt. It's like, no, that actually raises the prestige of every heavyweight title in those companies if you have one guy collecting it. Yeah, I think what's going to happen is he's probably going to win the title from the Impact champion first, and then they're going to set up for, a heavyweight title run. So, you go down the list of competitors in AEW, man, that roster's stacked.
Yes.
I didn't realize it until I, went through, just their Instagram photo. I haven't gone on their website, but I just went through it. I was like,
oh, yeah.
This roster's stacked. So,
Impact roster, the women's division is probably the best division out of all three, WWE, NXT, and AEW. I think they have the best women's division. They have Tennille Dashwood. They have Taya Valkyrie. And, how many of them are former champions of the Knockouts division? A lot, they've all runs of the belts. And now we have Jordan Grace, Deonna Purrazzo, who I think is, the WWE definitely overlooked.
Yeah.
You can talk to me about women's wrestling, man. I'll talk all day about it.
I know. You're a big aficionado.
Yeah, I've gone to Shimmer, and I've actually seen these women before it became huge,
Nice.
And so I'm excited to see what happens next. But
when
we had Serena Deeb, Thunder Rosa,
AEW,
that was huge as well. So
Yeah, that's the one thing I like about the. That's the other thing that I see a lot of fans don't get. Like,
Mhm.
how is AEW benefiting from Impact? I'm like, their women's division. Like,
Right.
if you watch like that, outside of the WWE, that's the deepest women's division in professional wrestling. And since the pandemic and everything in AEW, a lot of their wrestlers, you know, are overseas. Like Bria Priestley, she was working, but she
Yeah.
couldn't come over. So they're like, hey, we got to release you not because you're not talented, but it's just you just
Right.
can't come over. And she's stayed overseas and stuff like that.
It's
So I
true.
mean, it makes sense to partner with them and NWA if hey, we got a crop of women that are here in the states that we can bring in that can fight amongst our heavyweight titles and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Keep it relevant till the moment that hey, we can have fans in the arena and stuff like that. And all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's bring this person and stuff like that. It just makes perfect
Yeah.
business sense, to keep it relevant.
Yeah.
Um,
She has been going through everybody. She's been tearing
yeah,
through the roster too. Now she has
yes,
Abaddon. She may lose that match to Abaddon just because of the
yes.
psychological.
Abaddon. I love Abaddon. Oh my god, that I man, that outside of Rhea Ripley, Abaddon is one of my favorite women's wrestlers. I think it's more because she's different. Like
Yes.
that's as soon as you turn on the channel, you're just like, ooh, shit, that's creepy. But you're
I
like
know.
kind of this. You're like this. You're like, and man, it's just so. And man, that might be the title change that we see on Dynamite. Like either this week, I think they're fighting this week, right? Sheeta and
I'm not
Abaddon.
sure.
I think so. Or they might be fighting the last Dynamite of the year or the first. Either
Okay.
way, I know they're fighting soon. But yeah, she's got to drop that title.
Moving forward, we look at, not only the Impact roster now, they have added the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. They have this big tournament that's been happening. And so when you've seen also the additional talent they've signed, what do you think about them?
Man, you know what? I like it. It goes into the storylines and storytelling and everything and just their talent. I think what a lot of people need to really pay attention to, a lot of the wrestlers in both companies, AEW, NWA, Impact, and even New Japan, a lot of them are anime, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, DC comic, Marvel fans,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you're seeing. You're like they're big multi-universe fans. So if for people who follow comic books and stuff like that, I think that's what you're going to start seeing an implementation of a lot of comic book themed storylines entering wrestling. Like Impact, they have the women's tag team division. So it's like that'll be the Impact storyline only. Like it's not going to include anything. So you're going to have that. But then when you get later in the card with the heavyweight champ, okay, that story that involves that the multi-universe storyline and stuff like that. So I think that's where you kind of got to look at the storyline. Um, I like that they have the tag team women's division in or the titles in Impact. I mean, they have the roster to do it.
Right.
And let's face it, they're going to be more competent in booking their tag team champions than the WWE. I
Yeah.
mean, Nia Jackson, Shayna Blazer. I'm like, most fans get on Nia Jax. She's sloppy and everything. But here's my thing: Nia Jax is one of the biggest women in WWE. Shayna Baszler is a freaking MMA fighter. How the hell is anybody in that women's division going to beat them two? That makes no sense. Nobody should beat them. They shouldn't even last 5 minutes.
I
That
agree.
it makes no like how 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 like how is Sasha Banks gonna compete with an MMA fighter, like a legit MMA fighter? That makes no sense.
When you see
You know
Shayna Baszler eliminate all the women in like 5 minutes in the elimination chamber, remember? Last year,
exactly.
this year, remember earlier this year?
Yeah,
Just demolished all of them.
and then she loses by a roll up in one match. Like, you really like who the hell? Man. So I mean, with Impact, it's gonna be a little bit more competence. I think the wild card is I don't know if it was a storyline with Tessa Blanchard as far as the belt and everything. I mean, it's hearsay.
Right.
Okay, she did this and everything, but I wouldn't be surprised if she comes back to Impact.
I would be.
Because the reason why I say that, Sean, is if you look at it, this whole Impact AEW partnership, along with NWA and New Japan, either Impact, AEW, NWA, or New Japan, and I'm going to be involved in 5 companies, and I could just rotate through different storylines and stuff like that, where there's more longevity to the character and everything. So I think that's where it's headed, because I mean, let's face it, if she goes to WWE, yeah, it's going to be like, oh, Tessa Blanchard's in WWE, but even look at what they've done with Sasha Banks and Bayley. Like, they ran that feud until it was 6 months, that feud. So it's like, it's kind of, you got overkill with Sasha Banks and Bayley. You got overkill with Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. So it's like a lot of their women's division, it's deep, but as far as exposure, you're kind of like, all right. You know, it's not that, oh man, I want to see it. It's more, all right. The only one is Rhea Ripley. That's
what about Asuka?
Man, you know what? That's the thing. Like, ever since they took away her undefeated streak and, you know, had her just do all these goofy segments where she's spitting, and it's like, you know, they kind of made it passe almost, where it's just, all right, it's typical WWE thing. And that's unfortunate, because, you know, I've tweeted it many times, like, man, this WWE roster, I don't care if it's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, these dudes and women are talented. How they're booking them and putting them in storylines is so terrible. Like, oh my God, this is so stupid. So I mean, again, Asuka, man, she's cool, but it's how they've booked her, how they've portrayed her to the audience as far as believability, where it's just like, you're kind of like, you know, that 50-50 booking that, you know, is synonymous with WWE is biting them in the butt, because you can't really get behind anybody.
Yeah.
You know,
think she's going to leave WWE in the future?
I mean, if we relieve Moxley, there might be a mass exodus. You know, at first it was like, oh, it's only AEW, but like I said, you know, with AEW, the Impact partnership, and so it's almost like a resurgence of the territories,
right?
Where you look at, I mean, you got to look at it from this perspective as far as the business side. Cody left WWE. He asked for his release.
Right.
Went out, and he's more over now than what he was in the WWE, and more over than his brother was when he was top. So, I mean, that's where, hey, this guy's making more money. You know, these guys have the T-shirt connection with Pro Wrestling Tees. You know, I can create whatever T-shirt I want, keep the royalties and stuff like that. You know, it's very entrepreneur. So that's what's attractive. Plus, you know, you look at Tony Khan and some of these other owners, Billy Corgan, you know, Scott D'Amore, they don't mind these wrestlers, you know, whatever they want to do on their private, you know, their private life, they can do that. And it's kind of ironic that Impact, if you don't have Access TV, you can go on Twitch. Yeah. Maybe she stays, but, you know, if it's more attractive, you know, with what Impact, NWA, and AEW is doing with their women's division, and it's just a fluidity, stuff like that, and just, you know, granted, AEW's women's division isn't the best, but at least they don't use 50-50 booking with these women.
Right.
You may not see them. Okay, you don't see them, that sucks. You know, they should be regularly. But don't do 50-50 booking. Like, come on, man. You got to get behind me. But I think Asuka, you can put a question mark, maybe. That's right. 50. But you know what? It's unfortunate, because that's what most of their Asian wrestlers, if you look at it. You know, you look at Shinsuke. I was watching a video of when he debuted on SmackDown, when he got called up from NXT, and The Miz was imitating John Cena.
Yes.
And he came out in the crowd. I was like, where's that Shinsuke? Like, I want that Shinsuke back. Like, I'm tired of this Shinsuke with Cesaro. Like,
right
there. You know, and it's like,
I know.
It's so disappointing.
It is. I wonder if he will leave as well.
I think he will. I think he'll go back to New Japan. If this thing takes off, and you know, I'm gonna use if lightly. If or when we see the reformation of like the Bullet Club, that's when I I think you're gonna see a lot of wrestlers just like, you know what, I'm gonna go over there because you look at the numbers, you look at the trends on Twitter. Hey, they're getting an audience. People they're turning heads. It's interesting. It's organic. It's authentic. It's different. So that's what's attractive to them. So I think you're gonna see quite a few wrestlers.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that also when we look at AEW, Impact, all the great things they're doing, NXT, WWE, it's just great to have that variety, that choice. But what do you think would happen in a crossover? Let's say the Bullet Club faction, they form, and then on the other side of AEW, you got Inner Circle. Inner Circle versus the Bullet Club.
Oh man. It'd be cool. I think, just my opinion, I think the Inner Circle's headed towards like breaking up.
Jericho was never with Bullet Club.
No. The only reason I say that, Sean, when you watch this so long, you just get a feeling. Mm-hmm. And this was like back at All Out. When the Inner Circle would come out, it's like, okay, Jericho's kind of in the same spot he was when he was teaming with Kevin Owens, where it's like, okay, you kind of need to change, bro. You need to go face. You could sense it. Just how he's interacting as a heel, it's like, okay, it's already done. It's just you got to make that change. But it would be really cool. I don't know if we'll see the Inner Circle in the Bullet Club. I think what we'll see is the Elite versus the Bullet Club. I think that's what we'll see. Because the way I see it playing out, Omega is going to keep contact with, Carl Anderson and Gallows. Mm-hmm. The Young Bucks have already been hinting towards a heel turn because with their heel tactics and everything. Right. That's why people are like, oh, they're going to turn heel. They're going to go back to their ROH days. So you'll have that. Then, of course, I don't know if you listen to Tama Tonga's podcast. Spoiler alert. Side note. Anybody who watches this, if you want to know the ins and outs of what's happening in this wrestling, you need to listen to these wrestlers' podcasts because they drop hits. So Tama Tonga, he had Carl Anderson on his podcast, and a fan submitted the question, hey, is Carl Anderson still Bullet Club? He's like, he ain't never left. He's always going to be Bullet Club.
Right.
Oh, okay. So you have that connection that he's still Bullet Club. So, there's still that storyline of, hey, these guys left Bullet Club, started the Elite. They started their own promotion. They were never really Bullet Club. Now we want them back. So you have that little, it's like storytelling on stories on stories. So, it's so good. But, if there was a Bullet Club, you look at it this way, Sean. We still haven't gone to Match Beyond. We were supposed to get it with, the Bullet Club and the Elite. But, the pandemic came and it didn't happen. But, if you can get the Bullet Club against Cody, Moxley, Cody, Moxley. Okay, wait a minute. So you got Omega, the Young Bucks. That's 4. And then that's 5, right? Yeah, 5. Yeah. You got Omega, the Young Bucks, Gallows, and Anderson. So you're going to have Moxley, Cody. Then you're going to have probably Hangman, Page. And then who would be the tag team then? Man, who would be the tag team? Mm-hmm. Would it be FTR?
Yeah. But I heard they want to do FTR versus the Good Brothers.
Yeah, I know that one. I know they want to do the Young Bucks and the Motor City Machine Guns, which that'd be dope.
I think that this crossover was already in play when we go before the pandemic. If you go back to TNA, what was it? No Place Like Home. They teased that the Young Bucks, they teased themselves that they were going to show up at that show.
Yeah.
That might have been the beginning of this, but they kind of put it on the back burner with the pandemic. Yeah. And now I think they're returning to it. That might have just been a one-off, though. We don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I think that they were going to be a part of that. And I was looking forward to that show as I appreciate the old school TNA and the names and the matches. I was really looking forward to that one, and that was a bummer that we didn't get it.
Yeah, man, you know what? I forgot about that. Because the whole Don Callis thing, people are like, oh, man, I'm surprised. I'm like, dude, he was at Omega's match for the quarterfinal, the finals to fight Moxley. And I'm like, dude, he was on Jericho's 30th anniversary, giving him a shout out. Like,
Right.
like I always told, my buddies and everything, I'm like, with AEW, they're gonna drop hints right in front of you, and you're not gonna even, oh, okay, yeah. Like with Tanahashi, when he gave the shout out to Jericho, it's like, okay, he gave a shout out, but yeah, did you see the logo behind him? That was the New Japan logo. Like, they're not gonna put New Japan. They're not talking with them, and if they don't have, some working arrangement that they're headed towards,
True.
It's wrestling. So,
Yeah.
but man, I didn't think about that. Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that was something in the works before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
That it was blood and guts, and then they were going to lead into something like this. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. And then, the thing is, we haven't even gotten to Mero yet, and what he's going to do. So it's all fun, man. It's fun, and I'm really, really looking forward to it.
And then this week, Impact is matches announced. We got AEW matches announced. We have Cody versus Angelico. That should be good. Those two do not like each other. I forget, how did this start about? Was it like one of them attacked him, or is this just a random match?
I know, and Hybrid 2, all their interactions were with the Young Bucks.
Right.
And Top Flight. So I think it's one of those, man, that's actually an old school way of, like, you have these two random fighters, but like their storylines attached to them. So somebody's gonna, I like it. I mean, it might be a really good match. I think that's how this feud is. I don't think there was any interaction, because I know Cody, he's been feuding with Team Taz and everything. So It hasn't been, I think it's just one of those things, like, because there's so many storylines that are intertwined, it's like, oh, they fought. Oh, wait, they never fought.
Right.